Remember the 5th of November. Last night in the UK, it was loud. Not as loud as I expected it to be. I think people have mostly forgotten that. I don't know. Maybe it's like where we're at. People are like a bit grumpy, so it's grey and moody. Kind of what you like, Chris.
Well, I do love the grey and the moody and the overcast and the rainy. So
yeah, there you go. UK weather. But we've finished October. We're now back to what's the best thing you watched this week. Well, we watched this week. I believe we have quite a bit to cover this week. I had more things than I was expecting that I want to talk about. So that's the prerequisite for this a series, I guess. The best thing, not the worst thing. And then we can talk about one particular film or TV show or something that we want to highlight, because I think that's what we're going to start doing. So Welcome to the best thing you watched this week. I'm Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday. We have Chris from Movies and Munchies. If you've been following us over the weeks, thank you so much. If you've been listening to the podcast, thank you again. Please remember, do share it, especially the podcast, because we are trying to grow something there, and it would mean the world to us if you do that. I said do. And I think we're garnering an audience now on regular. We have about 40 people in and out, which is great. I saw someone from Poland in the analytics, so
that's cool.
Hello from hi. That's cool. Thanks for listening. And we are going to do our end bits with our Twitter news, whatever is, I guess, big at the moment in the world of entertainment. There's a bit to talk about, so that will be the bonus. But for now, Chris,
hey,
what's happening in your world of entertainment?
Oh, it has been quite the week of watching. Ooh, did you like that? Yeah. So, golly, yeah, there have been actually, I had to whittle my list down. You know, it was
not surprised.
Yeah, it was a busy week, but I also visited some things that I had never seen before, and a few that I have seen before also, that I just felt in the mood to watch. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had forgotten how good these were. But you know, I think probably the standout for me this week, and it was something that I was looking forward to, so I'm glad that it did pay off. But it was I almost said the best thing we watched this week. That's not correct. No,
that's the best thing I saw this week. That's so meta. Well done.
Know, right? A little self-indulgent there too. No, is The Harder They Fall, with Regina King and Idris Elba, Jonathan Majors, Lakeith Stanfield. I mean, the cast was...
the cast, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to watch this as well, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did, yeah.
What did you think about it?
How do I can't praise it enough, really. I think it's in my top 5 Westerns of all time at the moment. Although generally when it comes to Westerns, I have to watch them a number of times and see if it stays in my top 5. My top 5 would consist of Unforgiven, Tombstone, Young Guns, and maybe like a modern Western that people wouldn't class as a Western. So like In a City, where a guy consists of him being a cowboy. So I think about a Coen film, maybe one of those. It kind of swaps and changes depending on the mood I'm in. But I do love some modern Westerns. Clint Eastwood, really. But this, I have to say, it was a surprise. I didn't really know what to expect. I was taken back. I didn't know that it was all, 99% African-American actors. And within 20 minutes, I think I'd forgotten that was the case. Because every time you see another actor, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I do think that this film, you kind of do need to mention it because it is a standout thing. You know, it's especially when you get to one of my favorite moments where this is a white town.
Oh my gosh.
And I think I cracked up laughing so loud. But the creativity in this film. So I think what the director, I read an interview, so what he wanted was for people that don't like Westerns, he wants this to be the film to bring them into loving Westerns. And that's what I got from it. It takes the genre, it does all the things you know and love, and then it just goes for it. What did you think?
I agree. And let's see, the White Town. That was funny. First off, because even the ground was white. don't know if you noticed that. I mean, just everything. Yeah,
everything was white.
Yeah, everything
and
was
in.
Just a very creative, very creatively done. I saw somebody had made a comment on something, and it really they were like, well, why do you have to have an exclusively African American cast? And then, that was one of them, and then one of them is about, you have an exclusive African American cast, and yet then they kill the only white people, and I'm like, wait a minute here. Let's back up a second. How many movies are white dominated where the only people that are either held down or killed are the black people? And nobody has a problem with that, apparently. So when the tables are turned, your racism is showing. You might want to tuck that in, because
your card is showing.
Yeah.
The whole thing was about changing the narrative. So it's always been the African American person has either been the sidekick or the slave, and those has been showcased in the last few years in a positive light, like showing that this is what happened, 12 years a slave. So we know there's been many films, but then changing the narrative to and it's not fiction either. No. There were these people. This was based on a story that happened, that from his diary or his memoirs or something. And so it's not a fictional story. It all happened, obviously embellished to make a decent film and make it really creative and feel almost like Quentin Tarantino in places, and quirky. The dialogue was punchy, fast, witty. Yes. I mean, the performances, like before I even get into the coolness of Idris, like there is one moment when we see Idris walk out of a box and it does this Matrix thing where the thing around the air shimmers and bends and goes, whoa. And I'm like, that is awesome. How'd you do that? I love it. I want more of this. I'm sold. I'm in, man.
Absolutely. The production value, I mean, just the way you're right, where it to make this more accessible to a wider audience of people who don't necessarily like or are drawn to Westerns, the infusion of some more modern techniques I thought was brilliant. I mean, when the camera would push in on certain beats or gunfire or something like that, sometimes the camera angles really changed, so it became almost like a POV, or they put a camera on a gun. I mean, just
so good.
Yeah, it really was. The characters were outstanding. I loved all of the acting that went in, because each of them had their own certain little bit of flair to them. Like Lakeith Stanfield was so mellow and yet so deadly, and I loved he was almost whispering at points. As he's walking through the train. And the violence behind him going on too. Yeah. I mean,
that whole scene was excellent as well.
Oh, it was. Well, as I hit my microphone, I don't know if I saw this. I didn't see it in the movie, so I'm going to go back and watch it. But when they stop the train, when Regina King and the rest of the Rufus Buck gang stop the train to rescue Idris Elba from there, on the side of one of the cars, it says C.A. Boseman. And that was a tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, man. I didn't see that.
I didn't see it either, but now seeing like tweets and pictures of it and from the director, and spectacular. I love just
that's so cool.
That subtle nod there of just paying respect to him. And I think everything about this was just, it was so much fun. It was, I was surprised at how that Idris Elba was not had more screen time. I mean, he was a major presence within the story. I just thought that he was going to have more time. I loved when he was on there, but at some points, I feel that Regina King was the star.
She was so good
with Jonathan Majors. I mean, that scene with her and Zazie Beetz, where she's peeling
the storytelling.
So
Seriously, one of the greatest things you can do in a Western is get your bad guy to tell a story and make it horrific and then have to experience it and see the emotions. That scene should be studied by actors and recreated. Remember we referenced, what was it, Mass... What's it called again?
Midnight
From
Mass.
Mike Flanagan.
Midnight
Mass.
Mass,
So there's that one scene on the couch, right? That like is dialogue heavy but is incredible. I would equate that to like that scene there with that storytelling. I was just like, that is awesome.
Yeah. I was enthralled, just in everything. I mean, even the music, like it did take me. I acknowledge that it took me a little bit to get used to that.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was more so because it's not what I was expecting. You know, it upended some of my my presuppositions there of like, well, you know, it's going to have some more of just the Western music, and no, there's some hip hop in here, and I'm like, oh, that's different. Ooh, I really like this. I like how it's building out the story and what it's actually doing to accentuate everything that I'm watching. And
yeah, it worked. It really worked. And as I said in my review, I didn't expect that music to work here because of the genre and the time it was. You know, there's a lot of films that do that would take a modern music, drum and bass, whatever kind of style that isn't from that time, and sometimes you're just like, well, that doesn't fit. There was a Netflix series called Lunar Learner or something like that, where they had modern Celtic music inside the series, and it just didn't work. It was one of the things that took you out of it. So it often doesn't work. But when you can create it, and that just, again, shows the creativity of this film, because they worked at it, and it wasn't always like modern and different. They had their big orchestral classic Western sounds, which is great. Yeah, the gunplay I thought was excellent as well. Like when they had it, it was classic falling off the roof, like the things you wanted to see, but the way they showed it as well. I think you were mentioning about like camera techniques, spinning that around, seeing it from a different perspective or angle. The one thing that I was surprised by is when I was watching the film, in my mind, I don't know if you do this, Chris, is like you have ratios of when it like, oh, that it peaks and it gets better. So you're like, yeah, this is really good. I'm thinking about what I want to talk about because we're reviewers, and it gets higher and higher. But there was a moment where it just kind of settled. I was like, I'm not as emotionally engaged as I want to be. Like, I like the characters. I'm really enjoying it. It looks creative, and I'm sold on the adventure. But I wanted like that gut punch. Last 20 minutes of the film, when the story reveals itself, I was like, all right, cool. All right, I'm there, man. You got me.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
No, not at all. Yeah.
No, I loved what that did for the story. I loved that emotional pull, maybe tension that is there, and Jonathan Majors, like every execution that he did, not execution of people, but just like of his scenes and his performance. It fit within the character, and it always went back to reinforce things. Like when we watch him, I mean, he's the one that we're rooting for, that we want to root for, that we're, the story has kind of set him up to root for. But at the very beginning of the film, when he shoots the one guy, the scorpion dude, he tells the priest, if you turn him in, you get 5,000. He goes, well, why wouldn't you turn him in? Because I'm worth 10.
I'm worth 10.
Right there, we know that he is an outlaw too. I mean, he's the bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. You're a bad
But how great is that one line of dialogue setting up a massive backstory without dumping exposition?
Absolutely.
Just one little bit.
It tells us everything we need to know, right? That he is, while in this, he seems like a hero because he's killing a bad guy. Nope.
Yeah, I want to watch it again. My wife isn't a fan of Westerns at all, but this is one I'm going to force her to watch. She hasn't watched it yet, but I'm interested to see her, like, afterwards. If she goes, I enjoyed that. Because then I'll really know how good it is. It's one of those.
Yeah, my wife is not, she doesn't gravitate towards Westerns either. And this one, she was like, oh my gosh, it was so much, you just loved it.
It's great.
So, yeah.
Great news. Let's talk. I don't think it's doing a spoiler, but there's the last few seconds of the film. There's a silhouetted character, which leads me to think that we may get a sequel.
I would love a sequel, especially with, I mean, the character that they show, even though they only show like the side of a leg and a hand, what we see has been shown to us.
It's the hat.
Yeah, and that the duster, the denim duster type of thing.
Yeah.
That you know exactly who it is, and like, ooh, I want more of this.
Because there's a story there now because of what has happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's life repeating almost.
Yeah, well, and that sets up. I mean, that makes this first movie either chapter 1 or prologue of a grander story. Which, if they can continue to tell it in the way that they told this, absolutely, hands down, I'm on board.
100%. Yeah, good choice for the best thing we watched this week. It was such a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know what to expect. I hoped it was going to be good, but yeah, so good. 5 crazy Nicolas Cages out of 5.
So what topped your list?
Oh man, I had so many good things this week, which I was surprised by, and it always goes in waves of the things I am expecting to be great are not so great, and the things that I'm expecting to be okay are sometimes great, which is, I don't know why it works that way. It just is. Maybe it's because I read some of the reviews sometimes, which is a mistake, or I see some remarks on Twitter. Anyway, there is this standing thinking of Netflix rom-coms that they're terrible, and I would say 80% of them probably are. They're just cheesy. They're badly put together. The dialogue is hard to listen to, and it makes your soul die a little bit inside.
Yes.
And you're just like, why am I watching this? A part of the good is the bad, and as a reviewer, I've got to review it. Mm-hmm. So let's get through this, Ruben. You can do it. And you're just sitting there going, However, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Love Hard was so damn good. I enjoyed it so much.
Blown away.
It was so much fun.
100% agree. This one, I was not expecting it. Was not. I mean, I just like you, and it's a holiday rom-com at the beginning of November.
Exactly.
That is not a good sign.
That's not a. Normally, Netflix give us like the rubbish at the beginning, right?
Exactly.
And then that month of December, save the good stuff.
Yeah, and and it's funny because the movie where we have it's brought into the modern world with online dating, swipe left, swipe right. We have seen so many of the situations within this movie before. I mean, it is borrowed from several different rom-coms.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yet it still felt fresh.
It's amazing how they borrowed a particular film and made it work for them. I thought it was genius. Like, literally, I remember watching it, was, oh, that's clever. You've been building up to it. Well done. Okay, high five.
Exactly. I mean, and I was shocked by the comedy aspect of this, like how much I actually laughed out loud with it. Because,
right?
With a lot of the rom-coms, especially the ones that come out at this time,
Christmas or holiday season.
Yeah, it's you might get a chuckle from me, or that's cute. I mean, and maybe there is a laugh here or there. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't ever make me laugh. This one, though, I was laughing out loud a lot. And
yeah, I was. I had gotten the screener late, and I was in bed, and it was like I'm putting something to watch so that I can go to sleep with. Maybe get a head start on something, and I'll finish up in the morning. And midnight rolls around, and I'm chuckling and stifling my laughter, trying not to wake up my wife with my headphones. And she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "This is so funny. I'm so sorry. This is so good." So the couple that we get, we know that she's been catfished because that's in the synopsis in the trailer. But their chemistry, even though they're not technically a couple, or you could call them frenemies for like the first half of the movie until they get to know each other and become friends. Their chemistry is, I think, really what makes this film work well. because that you just feel like they are totally best friends. The way the dialogue runs off of them, but they react to each other, is just 100% believable. So that when you get a joke, because he's more dry, and I was so surprised at her comedic timing, because it's not someone that I relate to having that sort of like, I've seen her in other films, but this is not like, I wouldn't associate her with that. So then you get these two just delivering like spot on funny. I mean, do you want to talk about the carols?
Oh my gosh, I was blown away. I mean, okay, so we have to take the whole caroling scene as a whole, because you have the older brother character of Jimmy O Yang's Josh. He is just like attention whore. I mean, he needs to have the focus on him. And
he's the worst.
He is. And it's so over the top, and yet it like very cringy and like, oh gosh, dude, you need to stop. That's so obvious. You're such a child, and just, so when they start, I mean, well, let's go back, the whole boy band choreography, the just ridiculous.
Just thinking about it cracks
and
me
then
up.
I mean him still giving direction as they're singing the song, the older brother just over the top, trying to make it all about him and just trying to make it perfect, and even telling grandma not to miss the mark in the cue, and she's still late. And
he's doing that thing that singers do when they like hold their hands to the one ear because they got an earpiece in, and he's trying to, and he's going like finishing like a Mariah Carey Christmas. It's just
so funny. And then they throw out the whole, well, we'll do a request, and baby, it's cold outside. And as we've, has been in the news and just topics of discussion about how inappropriate that song really is.
That song is, yeah.
And so Nina Dobrev is like, I'm not singing that rapey song. What are you?
Yeah.
No. And Jimmy O Yang
you know what that means?
Exactly. He's like, trust me, it'll be okay. And the way that he changes his part, I mean, the whole thing, like, I'm laughing, and yet I'm trying to stifle my laugh because I want to hear all of the words.
You want to hear what he's saying. Yeah, absolutely.
It was just,
so good.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then the whole, I mean, everything. The entire movie is 100% predictable. And I didn't care one single bit.
No, exactly. You knew exactly what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, who was going to get with who, every moment of the film. Like, that would be a negativity if it wasn't what you wanted to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're rooting for them. You don't want, I mean, even through the train wreck that is always inevitable in one of these types of things, that, like, you know that has to come, and you want it to come even though you don't want it to come because it's uncomfortable. It just all
right.
Yeah.
We're gushing.
Yeah.
It's obviously you need to put this. I think you said you wanted to put it on your revisit, like your Christmas list that you want to watch every year. And I think I will do that as well with Love Actually and Die Hard.
Exactly.
And it's quite funny how we've been having the conversations about Die Hard. And it does crop up in the film.
It does, yes. I thought about our offline topic discussions that we have, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. I was a little surprised at how little it was actually played up in the movie. I mean, I thought it would be more of an ongoing theme within there
because of the title.
Because of the title, yeah, where they're taking Love Actually and Die Hard, and I think even like on the description that if you just hover over it on Netflix, I think it mentions that.
I think it does. Yeah.
One loves this movie, one loves this movie, and that's part of the whole impetus going on. And it was much less of a focus than I thought it was based on that. It didn't bother me at all. I mean, and they were still able to tie it in great little ways. So,
okay, what's next on your best thing we watched?
Well, okay, so there's two that I could talk about. I'm gonna Finch on Apple TV with Tom Hanks. Now, this is one that I had watched the trailer for, and it was kind of like, that might be okay. I mean, and yet when I watched it, I was completely enthralled. I mean, it's It's Castaway in the near future, you know, and yet it totally worked. Like, I was drawn in again to Tom Hanks. I mean, just his performance, but it's not just him. I mean, it's him interacting with the voice acting of Caleb Landry Jones, and the way that they bring the robot to life, you know, as that companion. And then the added, it's not a twist because it's told right at the very beginning, and even in the synopsis of the film, is that the robot is there to take care of Hanks's dog in the event that he dies. And so that emotional pull there, and so you always watch Hanks. I mean, his every bit of his drive and his motivation is to get this robot to the point where it can care for the dog. And that emotional connection, I mean, I was shocked by it, and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this. What did you think?
So we watched this together as a family, and it's very unusual for everybody to watch a film through, well, with my younger son, and I think we did, which is like, if the film manages to do that, then you know you've got our attention. Because today's media, we're so saturated, so it takes a lot for you kind of got to be good. You got to bring your A game. Normally, Tom Hanks will do that, and then it's sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. Okay, another tick. Then it's dog. Cool. we got that. Amazing score. I think it did a great job at portraying that kind of feeling that you were going for. Very open world. It's the end of the world, but it's also a very contained story with this kind of unit. I do love traveling adventures. So we're heading from one end to another. There's a time constraint because of a storm or something, and the main character is sick. So, and then we have to bring Jeff to a place where he is okay to look after dog. And so you have all those things of making that could be good, but if it didn't mix together well, then it wasn't gonna, it would just fall short. The thing I think works really well is that there was a lot that's not CG, that Jeff is animatronic or very real world. So when you see Tom Hanks interacting, like hugging him even, he's pulling on a pipe on a wire, and that makes him that much more real, because Jeff doesn't actually have any facial expressions. But I have to say, Kirsten and I, my wife and I, much more, we gravitated towards Jeff much more emotionally than we did Tom Hanks. We like Tom Hanks, but for us, Jeff, because he was doing that Pinocchio storyline, he wanted to be a real boy. He was going from toddler, teen to adult in the space of a movie, but he's learning differently because he is all zeros and ones essentially. But at what stage does he become a real boy? So that for us, we were like, yeah, we're totally on board. So whenever he got angry, when Tom Hanks' character got angry with Jeff, we were like, no, don't shout at him. How dare you? We were like, yeah, I think we always gravitate towards like the dog of the character or the animal. We're definitely those sort of people. Love Tom Hanks. I think there was one moment where he does this response facial expression, just a slight nod and an old man kind of tear, but he doesn't actually cry. And both Kirsten and I looked at us like, damn, this guy, he can just bring it in 1 second. He can portray something that needs to be portrayed. And you're like, whoa, okay, there's a lump in my throat. So there we didn't emotionally gravitate towards Tom mostly. We did love him in this. But for us, we were like, yeah, man, I want to see all about Jeff. My name is Jeff.
The scenes of Jeff learning to walk, and so we see, we see him in like the other room or something like that, and Tom Hanks is just kind of watching him and kind of that smirking of like, it is the toddler trying out their new skill or something like that, and him just kind of, he gears up, he steps his feet up and down, and like gearing up, and then he starts moving forward, and when he would run into something, just, I mean, they executed it so well to make something that, you're right, doesn't, I mean, the eyes would move tiny bits, but really not enough to make it like where Wall-E, Wall-E had,
Wall-E had some movement, didn't he? Yeah.
He was very emotive. This wasn't as much, and just to be able to draw us in and to make an emotional connection like that, just on some of the posturing, it was, and I think it works with the voice too. I mean, Caleb Landry Jones did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I mean that speaks volumes to his acting ability to draw you in that way.
Yeah, because he had, and I liked that it wasn't your typical like robotic or like there was a
Russian sound.
Yeah,
he sounded a bit Russian.
Yeah, and he didn't like he wasn't emotional, but he wasn't emotionless either.
Yes.
It was
exactly.
Just that fine line. I liked, and it's only shown just briefly. I mean, it's just part of that explanation, that story exposition without a lot of time spent on it. But before, as he's building out the parts of Jeff, you were watching, all of these books as Tom Hanks chooses books, and then the robot without the head is then ripping out the book, and scanning all of that information. And you're like, in that moment, you're like, oh, this is what he's doing it for. At first, I thought it was he's archiving all of this for,
I
like,
thought that too.
Like Book of Eli or something like that. That the reading has gone away or there's no books or whatever. But this one, it serves a very specific purpose, and so I enjoyed that they moved it along quickly. I was surprised that it, and not upset by any means. Just I thought the movie was going to go darker in certain moments, and
it was much lighter. Yeah,
it was, and I didn't. When all was said and done, that didn't bother me. Like I actually appreciated that they chose not to go that other route, because it ends up being a distraction more than anything from the story that they're trying to tell. Now, I mean, yes, it is post-apocalyptic. We do hear from a line or two of dialogue about how not all people are great now, and so that you need to stay away from certain spots. And then we see the chase that happens. But other than that, I mean, it then refocuses back to, it's our traveling movie. It's their goal to get to this place, and still the education, the upbringing, the transition of Jeff into capable caretaker for the dog.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I could see them almost doing a mini-series if Apple wanted to do it with Jeff and Dog in this new world, because you do wonder what he would do now and who would take advantage of him, because he's very much, he doesn't know what humans are really. He's still learning. I mean, he has all the information, but he doesn't know how, like, because he has the 4 laws of robotics. Well, the 3, and then that was the one added on to look after Dog. Finch.
Yes.
Is that what his name was?
No, Finch was Tom Hanks.
Finch was Tom Hanks. What was the dog's name? Dog?
That's what Tom Hanks called him. I think it did. No, Dog.
No, he had a name. He did have a name.
Yeah, but I think he just called him Dog.
It was after a tire. Goodyear. That's right, yes. Yeah, because he found him in that tire. Yes. Yeah, which is cute. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Maybe they could do something like a miniseries after the fact. Not that they will, but it I kind of left wondering, well, I wonder what they do now. How long does Jeff battery pack last for? Like, how does he know to look after himself? He never had to charge himself.
Yeah.
And they lost all the solar panels. My brain goes, but now what?
Yeah. I love that he put on a jacket that he wanted. I mean, that was part of that humanity.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? Like he sees it, he searches it out, and he like puts it on, and it makes him now feel like Tom Hanks. Just these small things that I appreciate.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, so it was a surprise.
Yes.
It was better than I was expecting it to be, which I was very glad for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had quite a interesting adventure this week, going to London to see a press screening, a multimedia screening for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Nice. But you haven't seen it yet.
No, and they're not even doing screenings in my area, which is unfortunate. Yeah,
that's rubbish.
Yeah.
So I will do spoiler free.
Okay, thank you.
But this is definitely on the best thing I'm watched. I'm happy to report. My only criticism, not even a criticism, is a Ruben's top tip before watching Ghostbusters Afterlife. Watch the original. Because there are a lot of things that it pulls from. It's also like a continuation of a story. So it connects 1 and 3. Okay. And we're just going to ignore that
the number 2
there was a reboot.
Yeah.
No, 2's fine.
We're
going to ignore that reboot.
Yes.
Because I tried watching it. I watched 1 in preparation, and then I was looking at 3, and I was like, was it really as bad as I remember? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Chris Hemsworth,
and it's not
great.
because it's female, but I don't like the fact that they made him dumb, because we never got that in Ghostbusters 1. The secretary was intelligent, smart, and didn't take any. So the weird correlation of now we have all female Ghostbusters, but now Chris Hemsworth has to be stupid and dumb. I don't understand what they were trying to prove. I do think he's probably the best thing in the film, which is weird considering we have 4 comedians as Ghostbusters in that film. I don't think it was their fault. I think the script was just bad. So, moving along. Okay, so Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, directed Ghostbusters Afterlife. Ivan Reitman directed the original Ghostbusters movie. And they were both there, which I was surprised, and they did a little speech, and I was like, whoa, I've just watched the film with Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman, because they stayed to watch the movie, which it was a father and son thing for them, because they'd never seen their film in IMAX. So you can imagine, the crowd is already like, dude, do you know who's sitting like over there? It's crazy. But what they managed to do is tick all the boxes of what you want as a Ghostbusters fan, but make it relevant for today, but also keep some of that nostalgic magic that was the 80s, because you've managed to put it in a town that is kind of dated. It's its own little world, so you can still do stuff that makes sense, that is old. There's like a diner that looks like it's from the 60s. These dilapidated buildings that just haven't like moved into the modern era. It's like a place where you go to die, or if you're born there, you probably can't ever escape. You know, it's one of those towns that people like, I can't wait to go and live in New York. It's that sort of. So you can do whatever you want. It's a really clever mechanic to use. So that's what they have. At the same time, they have ghosts and things like, you want a Slimer because that's like, you have to have a Slimer. But there is no Slimer because you can't just have Slimer because of the sake of it, right? But they have a ghost that is like Slimer called Muncher, who munches metal. So I'm not going to give you anything elsewhere. I'm just saying that they've taken bits and put it into a story that rarely works. The biggest surprise for me, however, was that the young actors were so good that I didn't really care when you get the proper Ghostbusters moments or characters pitching it up or those other things that you expect. Oh, now we're Ghostbusting. The young actors were so good that I wanted to keep watching them, like really acted everybody else off the screen, which I was like, dude, like, where did you find these guys? Obviously, we know one of them from Stranger Things.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah. Finn, yeah. And he was great, but there's this young actress. She is so damn good. Like, you know, when people say one to watch, she's an actress that is one to watch. So then we have the score that was lovingly recreated from scratch, but sounds exactly like the original. I was humming it all the way, like back on the train, as it, you know, it just gets stuck in your head sort of score. Nice. It feels like a love letter from son to father that they've done it together, and because of that, it's character based around a big apocalyptic story. And so what he's gone for is less CG. So there is CG because you can't do Ghost really without CG. But there's like real world monsters. So there's animatronic monsters they've gone for instead of doing CG.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so very, very tangible, like physical world that feels lived in. And I think it works. It's like, dude, I'm in love with this film. I think it's a 5-star film, but that's me saying that. It's so predictable, like Force Awakens is predictable, like they've recreated Star Wars again. You know, like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. I know what the characters are going to do, but I didn't care. So I would like give it 4.5 out of 5. Like I would put my critic brain on and go, okay. Nice. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, I can't see you not loving this film.
That's awesome because I mean, I watched, I've seen the trailer a few times, and I get, definitely get original Ghostbusters vibes from it, and some of the imagery, and so in my head secretly I'm like, I want this person to make a cameo, or I want this person to make a cameo, different things like that, and I know that we have two cameos that I at least one from voice that's shown in the trailer. And it looks like a lot of fun. That's really what, that I'm looking forward to. Something that does have that nostalgia to it, but can stand on its own as well. And that it takes it, and propels it forward. And so hearing that you can see some of that love letter between father and son, or rather son to father, and giving him maybe a little bit of homage to what his dad had created there, and still bringing it into relevancy and some modernness, and maybe even just timelessness, I guess, maybe with capturing the old town and making it, So I'm bummed that I'm gonna have to wait for like 2 more weeks to see it.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna go watch it again. It is that good. Like, I need to see it again. Gives you an idea. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd, but done in a way that's genuinely great. Like, he's doing his comedy that works, but he's doing comedy with kids, and again, his chemistry with the kids is brilliant because he's a teacher in the, but he's just so obsessed and in love with science, and he's a geologist, and so that just pours out of him. So the young female actress loves science as well, so they hit it off immediately, and they have this like weird banter that goes between them, and that only they understand the jokes that they're telling each other because it's science based, and everybody else thinks they're nuts, and it's perfectly like well done. It's like they've done 4 or 5 films together already, because they just have that genuine banter between them. I was worried about Paul Rudd only because sometimes he is the funny guy. But if he's cast right, like Ant-Man, then it works. So he's another standout for me. I'm looking forward to what you think about it when you see it.
Right on. Yeah, I have the opportunity to buy some tickets for it, to see it, like on the Thursday night that it comes out. Except I have a press screener that night, and I can't do it. So I'm either going to have to. And the movie that I'm seeing is, I think, close to 3 hours long. And
oh my gosh, so, it's an epic one.
Yeah, and so I won't be able to see Ghostbusters until probably the next night. So still very much looking forward to it.
We can revisit it and talk spoilers when it's officially out.
Yes.
Because there's 2 end credit scenes, and you're going to want to talk about them.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. That's exciting. I only have...
Cool, so what's...
Oh, no, go ahead.
You only have one more?
No, go for it.
I was going to say, what's next on your list?
I think... For time, maybe I'll skip maybe the one I was going to talk about. I don't know, and just visit the a movie that may not be on everybody's radar, but really surprised me. It's on Netflix. It's from 2018, and it's called Incident in a Ghostland.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, I hadn't either. It stars Amelia Jones, who was in Coda and Lock and Key.
I love Coda.
Yeah, so we know who she is. Now this, my Netflix queue and algorithm is, I mean, it doesn't know what to do with me because I watch everything. And so it's just, you pull up my home screen and it's like, well, here is everything that we have. Just choose something. Because it doesn't know how to categorize me. But this is a messed up psychological horror. I mean, it has a really dark twist to it, even though it starts out really dark. It is directed by the same dude who directed Martyrs.
Yeah, I just saw the tagline. Yeah,
I didn't.
That tells me to avoid it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was directed by him, and I haven't seen Martyrs yet. But this one was well executed. It is dark, like I said. there is a lot of creepy imagery within there. They use a lot of dolls too, which is that's high on my list of no. Like, ugh.
You're not selling me. I'm watching this, Chris.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh. The story twists within it was outstanding and really puts a nasty turn to it. I mean, you have this messed up story where these this single mom and two daughters move into their dead aunt's house out in the middle of nowhere. And within the house are just all kinds of weird dolls and everything else. And when they stop for gas at one point at the local gas station, it's overheard on the news that there is these unknown killers that are going through whoever. I mean, I don't know the geography that they're traveling, but they're traveling killers who murder families. So it
fun. Okay.
Yeah, this is happy stuff right there, right? And the relationship between the two daughters is antagonistic, so there's a lot of tension within there. The mom kind of favors one over the other at times, and so that creates some more tension. The one of the daughters, actually the one that's played by Amelia Jones, she is obsessed with H.P. Lovecraft, and she wants to be a writer herself. And as we're going through this, I'm looking and I'm like, does this?
I love H.P. Lovecraft stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it actually really goes into. I mean, there's no old ones or ancient ones. There's none of that cosmic horror within there. So I think it's more just a device that she just likes the dark and the creepy. And that she is
so we know she's weird.
Yeah, and that she's a storyteller or an aspiring storyteller. I think there are moments of this, and it's not Lovecraft. It's The House on the Borderland, that book, which is messed up and just weird. Also, maybe it pulls a tiny bit in from that, but not really. I mean, that's still cosmic horror, and I don't want you going into this thinking that this is cosmic horror at all, because it's not. Yeah. It's not. But it is
just horror.
Yeah, it's just horror, and it's it's gory. It is it'll stick with you, I think, for a tiny bit. It's not something that's haunting.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. And that was because of the twist. The twist is what really got me. That I was uncomfortable as I'm watching this, and I think I know where the story is going because it's leading me down this path, and then that's not where it goes, and so that catching me off guard and that being able to redirect my expectations, that's what really hooked me. And then it's dark. I mean, it's not something that I'm ever going to watch again. But yeah, it's messed up.
Is that the one you wanted to bring attention to? Is that your weekly choice?
No.
Or is it there's something else?
No, there's something else really. I mean, I went, so I have a ton of movies, and we've all, obviously we've both seen a ton of movies.
I mean, it's okay because we're doing much less time because we're no longer doing the 5x5. So
exactly, yeah.
You're right. Tell us, Chris. Tell us what you wanted to. We're here to listen,
Chris. Yes, no. Yeah. Have you seen Safety Not Guaranteed? Aubrey Plaza, Jake Johnson, Mark Duplass from 2012.
Say batteries not included, but safety not. Yes, I think so. It's a sci-fi one. End of the world.
It's not end of the world. It's really like a romantic comedy adventure. Not adventure. That's wrong. Romantic comedy-ish with a touch of sci-fi. And this one.
Yeah, I have seen this. It's weird.
It is weird, and I absolutely love it. I mean, this is Aubrey Plaza's, I think, her first leading role, or where she is the driving force within a movie. I mean, she had been in movies before. She's obviously parts of, Parks and Rec, and she has a large catalog of things now. But I believe in 2012, this was her first real leading role within a major motion picture. And,
Yeah.
you have you have Jake Johnson, who is a reporter at some tabloid-ish magazine, and they find this small little article as they're looking for stories, and it talks about this guy who he put a tiny ad in a newspaper where it's like, if you I'm looking for somebody to go back in time with me. You must bring your own weapons. You'll be paid upon on return. I've done this only once before. Safety not guaranteed. And so they go investigate.
And that's the title, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And I love the journey that this movie takes us on. That we watch. Mark Duplass is he's the guy who believes that he has gone back in time. And
right.
Throughout this,
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh,
I know of it.
It used to be on Netflix in the U.S., and then I think it was even on Amazon Prime at some point. I just pulled it out of my closet because I own it, because it's so good. It's so worth revisiting. But it's very heartfelt. There's way more emotion in it than I would have expected, and then the touch of sci-fi that's within there is outstanding. And I love the fact that all along, Mark Duplass, when we focus on him, he is a completely unreliable narrator. That we don't know if he is just absolutely 100% delusional or if he's telling the truth. And he's just that bit of sketchy where you're like, I don't know. And then he'll do things like these little quests that he's on that he believes is helping him achieve his goal of time travel, and you're like, you're just crazy. You're just a lonely guy who has lost, the connection with the real world here, and you're going down this thing. And what starts off as kind of the joke and him being the butt of a joke, at least from Jake Johnson and Aubrey Plaza's point of view, transitions. And we even see Aubrey Plaza, her character, transition, and the way that she crafts that character and draws us in with her own progression. This is definitely one I think to watch. It's not very long. It's a light watch. It's because I had the Blu-ray and stuff, it had some bonus features on there. And right. there is one scene in this where there is a car chase, and it's funny because of the car chase. And then when you see behind the scenes of why the car chase took place the way that it did, it makes it even better.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
I'm definitely going to put this on my list, I think.
Yeah, safety not
I do
guaranteed.
like Aubrey Plaza. Have you seen Ingrid Goes West?
I have not.
'Cause that's one of her weirder ones. But also, I love the fact that she can carry a weird one, because she is a little bit quirky herself in the roles she chooses.
Yeah.
If you just look at her IMDb page, you're like, yeah, okay, I can see the type of film. I think definitely we like those type of films. It's a little bit quirky, a little bit maybe a bit of horror, sci-fi, but like the script is tight, but the dialogue is great. Yeah, got a lot of atmosphere. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's been on my list. Definitely know of it. I don't know why I've never... It's one of those that I've just had around, but not actually stuck on. So after that, I think I'm definitely going to try it. See if it works for me.
Right on.
Sounds like it will.
Yeah, it surprised me. That was, I think, the biggest thing that the amount of heart and emotion that I left feeling from that. That's what, I hope you like it.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to do 2 in 1. So this is something I want to draw people's attention to put it on their list to watch, but it's also very new. It hasn't come out yet. So I'm going to mention some titles for you that are currently on Netflix. Squid Game. Did you like Squid Game?
No, Not at all.
Oh yeah,
Totally love that movie
terrible.
or
Yeah.
that show. Yeah.
Kingdom. Did you like Kingdom?
Oh, yes.
How good was Kingdom? Sweet Home. Did you like Sweet Home?
I enjoyed Sweet Home.
My Name.
Yes. Stop
Alice
with
in
the
Borderland.
teasing. What was the last one?
DP. Alice in Borderland.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a new South Korean Netflix original miniseries based on a webtoon called Hellbound.
I'm so excited.
Have you started watching this yet?
I don't have the screeners for it.
Okay. The
Lucky.
screeners are available. Yeah. The first three, they've done a weird thing this time, so it leads me to think that there is more going on here with Netflix. More going on in the second half of the story. So basically, what they've done is said you can do a review on the first 3 episodes. There's no embargo, but for the last 3, you're embargoed pretty much up until it releases because there's obviously a big plot twist. Anyway, let me set the scene for you. Not that after those titles you're already going, yeah, I want to watch this.
Totally.
People hear predictions on when they will die. When that time comes, a death angel appears in front of them and kills them. That is the IMDb synopsis. Once again, it's wrong, people. I don't know how many times IMDb gets their synopsis wrong, but it's wrong. What actually happens is this death angel appears and says, you have so-and-so many days left before a demon things will come and collect you. They will beat the crap out of you. It won't be a nice death. And then we will suck your soul into hell. That is what's going to happen. And that is the premise for this bonkers series. Obviously based on the webtoon. I have seen the first episode because I kind of want to do a full review. I was wondering, like, do I do episode reviews? This is a weird one that Netflix are kind of putting us with. But just to do a taster, if you love South Korean series, this is one that should be on you. Because the creatures alone are so weird. They are big brutes. They look like kind of Hulk characters, but they're all smoky and sinewy. They're dark. Their eyes are like just menacing. Their faces look like they're just evil. But the story behind it is like a cult story. It's so anime. It just reminds me of so many anime. So if you think of a cult that people start worshipping things that are coming to judge you for your sin, they mention God a lot. There's like, if a murderer gets away or gets out early, and then suddenly this big face will appear in front of you. It's very biblical because, like, even it reminds me of one of the stories in the Bible where there's this line that appears on someone's wall and it's like God is talking to them. It reminds me of that sort of storyline. This face appears and it's like, this is your time of death. You have been judged and you will die on this time. It's like a while ago there was this app telling you exactly when you would die. They used that premise in a film. It's kind of like that. But then you get these things that come and people see it, but they're not quite believing what they're seeing. And they think it's a big media hype. So there's all the police investigation. There's this cult that are like using people to like repent now, join me because, you know, your time is up. And then there's the actual story that's going on. And like, it's very dialogue heavy because they're doing a lot of exposition. They're trying to establish the world, but it's also very, very creepy in a weird way because you don't really know what's going on, but you're very much intrigued. It opens with a big kind of splash of like, ugh, like, okay, this is happening during the day. What the hell is actually going on? Like something really nasty. And they do this thing where the monsters are believable, but not quite believable. I think they do that. There's this like culture thing where you can't make monsters too real. You have to differentiate them that they're not real. But because it's CG and it is like a hell beast, you kind of go, yeah, okay, that's cool. But man alive, I'm just loving South Korea's content. Like, I feel like I'm biased, but every single series so far on Netflix, like the last few years, they've just been knocking it out of the park. Sorry, I've talked a lot now. What are your thoughts on this? Was this on your radar?
Oh my gosh, yes. No, I saw mention of it several months ago, and then I saw that it at some film festival It debuted, and I tried to get in on that film festival, but it wasn't one that was doing it virtually, and it was not in my area at all. So so I didn't get to see it. I think a couple weeks ago Netflix released the trailer for this on YouTube, and when I saw it, it's a guy in a coffee shop, and I was like,
and he's doing that with his phone because he's seen something. Like,
yeah, he's just freaking out, and then the creatures appear, and he's running down the street, and they're just obliterating everything in their path. I was like, oh yes, I'm so here for this. I didn't know what to expect. I had only read the little bit of synopsis, not the one on IMDb, but the one that they had within the Netflix, the back end that we have access to, and it was like, ooh, this sounds good. I'm gonna, and like you, I am a sucker now for South Korean content. So it, I mean, it's kind of like Germany's stuff for me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I love the Germany stuff, and so when I see, hey, something new from South Korea, okay, you have my attention. I'm
I'm there. You have the benefit of the doubt. I don't even need to see what it's about. I'll just watch it.
Exactly. Because you have proven yourself to put out quality stuff. Okay, I'll give it a try. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be good, because there have been some things from Germany that I'm like, oh no, I didn't really like that. But yeah, this one, it comes out in like 2 weeks, I think, something like that.
It's the 19th or something. Yeah. Not too long to wait, but man, I was just like, oh, they've done it again? Like, how are they doing this? This is great stuff. I think a lot of it is webtoon based. So they're taking established stories and then they're converting it into a series. And I went up and looked online, and it's almost exact. It's like they've taken the webtoon as storyboards. Oh, wow. Which is brilliant, because I think, obviously, we want to give webtoon artists and story creators their due, which is so great. It's about time that side of the world of animation is being lifted into the limelight a little bit, because anime is so now in the forefront, but webtoon always kind of gets pushed back, or almost has like a bad taste in people's mouth, like webtoon, that's lower end of the creative style. However, South Korea have gone, but hang on a minute, there's some really great content here, and now we have it. If you are one of those people that want to read the stuff first, Amazon actually has like a first like a compilation that you can buy the physical media with, like the actual comic, and it's also available on Dark Horse. And if you know anything about Dark Horse comics, you know that they're well established as good content, and so just the mere fact that it is on Dark Horse kind of gives it a seal of approval of a decent story. I'm a little bit sad that it's a miniseries, because I know there's quite a bit of content there, but once again, if it gets like anything near what Squid Game got, because Squid Game, like, I don't know, second or first highest most watched series now for Netflix, in the like maybe 100 million or something ridiculous. Like,
it's insane.
Lots and lots and lots of people watched it. Then I'm sure we'll get more. But they do this kind of testing of the waters, don't they, Netflix? They give us a short series, see if there's an audience for it. If there is, I'm like, okay, here's some more money. Do your thing.
Yeah. And we've talked about this off and on over the last several weeks and months, but I enjoy a good contained miniseries. I think more often than not, we have a story that maybe only should have been one season, that it should have been limited, but it blows up, and it,
and then the second season's not so good.
That money comes into play more than storytelling, I think. And it just, I think you would have been better served to wrap up your story, make it contained, give it a good ending. Even if you want to leave it on a little bit of us wanting some more, leave us with that tension a little bit, but don't leave it as just a cliffhanger that you're never going to come back to. But,
I mean, movie sequels are a prime example of that. Speed 2, does that ring a bell?
Exactly. See, these things that, I like. There are some series, though, that I think, like, let's look at Dark. Okay, so I mean, that's easy for me to go to, because that is my favorite series of all time. Yes, it's
rubbish,
not.
Though.
It what?
I said it's rubbish though, and your brain just stopped. Like, say what?
I'm sorry. Hang up now. Friendship over. No, you can totally dislike dark. That is your prerogative, and I'm okay with that. But no, like obviously that's more than one season, but they wrote it with 3 cycles in mind, and so
Yes, they did, yeah.
I look at that as that's a contained story also. Now,
Yeah, it
even
is,
though
yeah.
it's spaced out, through 3, it was, they originally said, here is our beginning, here is our middle, here is our end. We know where we want to go versus, we're just going to continue on, in season 13, we're like just kind of limping through and nobody's really watching or whatever. And, it's disgusting.
Hey, I've watched 15 seasons of Supernatural, and it's still good.
Okay. I have not watched one season of it or one episode, so I'm going to trust you on that.
What are you doing?
I know. Well, I did watch. I did watch 3 minutes, I think, of a Riverdale episode, and that was all I needed to see. Now, granted, it was in the middle, and it was somebody who was getting on a rocket ship that they wanted to fly to outer space, and I said, I don't eat. Okay, I'm done. You gotta.
I don't eat or need to see this ever again.
Exactly, yeah. And the only reason I turned it on is because my kids were like, "You got to see how stupid this is." I was like,
Amazing.
"Okay."
Okay. Well, if you're searching for, wait, what were we talking about? We digressed.
We were talking about Hellbound.
Right. If you're searching for Hellbound, you can search on, because it's quite. It took me a while to actually find the comic. It's under the title rather of Hell, and then type Webtoon, and then it'll come up with the creator's name, and then you should be able to find it. I tried. The Hellbound. Hellbound has many different webtoons, but it's not the Hellbound that you're looking for. Its original title was Hell. So there you go. Ruben's second top tip of the day. Yeah.
Nice.
Hell and then webtoon. Yeah. Right. I guess we're not going to talk about Eternals.
How about we save that and we talk about that in our bonus audio?
Okay. Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Sorry, those of you that are watching, that just talk about ending on a cliffhanger right there. Right?
If you want to hear our thoughts on Eternals, you can go to the bonus content.
Yes, and you can hear that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, goodness, Anchor.
It's everywhere now.
Everywhere, yeah. And so please, if you, well, no, I don't know what I was going to say there, but if
you like listening to our podcast, you can rate. You can rate us and say we're the best thing since Swiss cheese, or the Blues Brothers, or Donald Trump, or
I don't know if we
not hard.
Need to be lumped in with all of that.
Your face. No, don't say that.
Yeah.
I'm eager to talk about news. So we've got lots of interesting things to talk about on our podcast section.
Yes.
So do join us there.
Yes, please do. And we thank you for watching. We would love to hear the best things that you watched this week. Let us know in the comments. Also, is there a new show? Not even new. Is there a show, movie, series, something like that you want to draw our attention to? Because we're trying to now in these off weeks that we don't do, not off weeks, in the weeks that we don't do any type of special focus, we're trying to bring attention to something that is that may not be on your radar, or that is on ours, that we revisit from time to time, or that we want to just draw attention to. And so we would love to know yours. If you have something to draw our attention to, that would be outstanding. As always, like, share, subscribe. Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday, me, Chris, Movies and Munchies. We'll see you next week. Take care. I don't know what you're doing. Oh, wait, is it going up your nose?
No, I was trying to live long and prosper.
Oh, yes. Oh, my.
See, fingers going up my nose. Like, what are you doing? Oh dear.
Oh, well,
too much coffee.
Yeah, and that's going to be a thumbnail.
Oh no.